Hello and welcome to your May Sowalong with SusyB. It is the 1st of May and day 1 for your Sowalong, and today we are going to deal with radish. So the easiest variety of radish to grow is the small, round, red one. And there are 3 varieties that I find work no matter what. They are Cherry Belle, Scarlet Globe, and Rudi. This is my last sowing of radish for the spring summer, and then I will sow again in September for later on in the year. And the reason why I don't sow in the summer is because I find that they're really difficult to look after. I can't keep up with the watering. They tend to bolt. They go a little bit kind of too spicy, and they also go a bit spongy as well. And you don't want that. What you want is a beautiful radish like this one. Round, delicious, crunchy. Okay, let's talk about sowing them. You can sow in modules if you want, but at this time of year, I like to sow them direct. They get off to a really fast start, and you don't have to waste time with modules and extra compost. So you can either make a drill and then sprinkle the seed, or you can make holes, little indentations about 1 inch, 2 inches apart, so you can put more than one seed in. I recommend you do put more than one seed in, because you never know what is going to germinate and what's not going to germinate. And sow them quite deep, about 1 centimetre or 1.5 centimetres. Don't worry, they'll come up. You could even, if you've got an area, if you're doing square foot gardening, you could even do the whole area and just broadcast them nicely on the area. Label them so you know which one you're going to like, which variety. Water. Very, very liberally. Okay, I'll see you in a few days when these have germinated. Hello and welcome to day 2 of your May Sowalong with SusyB. Today I am sowing beetroot. Even though beetroot grows fine when sown direct, I always sow into modules because I like the consistency I get. Because I want this beetroot to be of similar size for storage, I only sow 2 seeds per cell. Don't forget to water them well, and of course label them. I'm going to put these in my greenhouse and they should germinate within about 2 weeks. Hello and welcome to your May Sowalong with SusyB. It's a flowers day on the moon phase calendar, so I am going to sow Calabrese. We love a flowering brassica in our household, and Calabrese, which can be harvested in just 3 to 4 months, is our favourite. Yes, you can grow Calabrese at this time of year. You just have to make sure that you choose the right variety. And this is why I love Marathon. You can grow this all year round. Okay, let's sow them. I multi-sow these in a 10 centimetre pot. Brassicas are really easy to prick out, and you can choose the strongest seedlings to pot on. Remember to label it and always give it a good soaking of water. At this time of year, I put the pot in my greenhouse to germinate. I don't leave it outside because I want them to start strong and not have to deal with the weather and also insects. These hybrid seeds aren't cheap, so you don't want to be losing any seedlings unnecessarily. Seeds are going to appear in 3 to 7 days, depending on how warm it is. Da, 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 da. May the 4th be with you. It's Leaves Day on the Star Wars calendar, so put down those lightsabers of yours and let's sow some lettuce. You can grow lettuce anywhere. You can grow it on your windowsill in the kitchen. You can grow it on a windowsill anywhere in the house, window box, a container, a garden. At this time of year, when I'm growing the head lettuce like that, I like to grow them in these modules. Lettuce seed is really, really small. So when I plant into these modules, I'm a little bit generous with my seeds, but I will actually thin these out to 2 seeds when they come up. Put a label in, give it a good water. If you can't be bothered faffing around and putting your seeds of your head lettuce into modules, then do it this way. So direct. This is a mixed salad leaf variety. Now I have got quite a few packets here and I am going to fill this whole veggie pod. A veggie pod is just a container, so you can put it in anything, like I said. And I'm going to fill and just mix the whole lot with leaves. And these grow really fast. They're called cut and come. You cut them once and then they come again, just with a pair of scissors. Really easy way to grow lettuce. When I sow direct, I water first and then I just sprinkle. Sprinkle some compost on top and then you won't have to water for a couple of days. And in a few days' time, all of this will have germinated. We don't have to do anything with that, but I'll show you what we do with the ones in the module when they're ready to transplant. So go on, grow yourself some lettuce. It's a Leaves Day tomorrow on the moon phase calendar as well. Get some lettuce seeds in. It is fantastic stuff. Hello and welcome to day 5 of your May Sowalong with SusyB. It's another Leaves Day on the moon phase calendar, so today I am sowing coriander or cilantro. Are you a lover or a hater? Apparently it's got something to do with your genes. Luckily for me, I didn't inherit my mum's hating genes. She says it tastes like stink bugs. In our household, we can't get enough of it. So let me show you how I sow it at this time of year. There are lots of ways you can sow the seed. You can sow direct into pots, to modules like this, but at this time of year, I like to sow into 9-centimetre pots. And that's because I want to be able to plant this out in gaps in the garden. Coriander seed is big, but I don't think this is the right way of sowing it. I put them in a mortar and pestle and I give them a good pounding. And not only does it smell absolutely fantastic, you've got all the seeds separated. So now, all you've got to do is sprinkle these seeds on top, cover with more compost, label it, and give it a good water. It's as simple as that. These are going to take about 1, maybe 2 weeks to germinate, and then we're going to end up with something like this. Hello and welcome to day 6 of your May Sowalong with SusyB. It's yet another Leaves Day on the moon phase calendar. So today I am sowing spring onions, or salad onions, or scallions, or bunching onions. There's another one that's got a whole heap of names. Spring onions are really versatile. You can grow them in containers and you don't need a deep container to grow them in as well. They also grow really well in any kind of soil condition and they're really good to interplant. So spring onions are just varieties of onions that have been bred to be late bulbing or like small bulbing. And even though salad onions or spring onions are actually bred to resist bulbing, they're still an onion. So they're going to try to bulb as we go through summer. Now I'll show you what I sow at this time of year. There are lots of varieties of bunching onions out there, but there's one that I particularly like growing in the summer. For your spring onions to work properly, I think there is only two options: sow direct or sow into modules. I've tried pricking out, but for me it is so unpredictable what you get with spring onions, I don't bother anymore. And because we like spring onions so much, I always sow 40 at a time. At this time of year, I like to multi-sow up to 8 or 9 seeds per cell. They are really fast growing. They're going to mature all at different times. And if your seed is a little bit old, at least you're getting a lot into the module. If they don't germinate, it doesn't really matter, does it? I've made a hole in each module, which is about 1 centimetre deep. I then just take a little pinch and pinch in about 8 seeds. Cover with some compost. Don't forget to make your label and give it a really good water. Okay, I'm not finished yet. These need to germinate somewhere cool. They can germinate somewhere warmer, but if you want a really good sturdy plant that will do well through its whole growing season, then they like to have 16 to 18 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to find a shady space out here on the patio and just put them there until they germinate. And in a few weeks' time, they'll be looking like this, and then I can show you what I do with them next. Hello and welcome to your May Sowalong with SusyB. Today is a fruits day on the moon phase calendar and I am sowing beans. Today I'm going to sow a climbing French bean called Cobra and a dwarf French bean called Amethyst. Dwarf beans are really fast maturers, so if you want something and you want it even in a small space like a container, these are absolutely perfect. They mature and they can be harvested within a month, and then climbing French beans are also fantastic for small spaces as well because they grow vertically and they don't take up much space. However, if you do want to grow these in containers, then you need big containers, preferably about a 50-litre container. Let's go and sow them. If you're interested in the varieties that I like to grow, have a look in the description below and I outline all of them and why I like to grow them. But for sowing, it's really simple. First of all, beans are big, as we all know. Cobra is actually a black variety. It's a very good looking bean. Now, all I do is I like to use these 12 cell modules and I plant 2 beans per cell. I just do that. I stick them in and beans always find the top and the bottom. I then just cover them with a bit of compost. Make sure that you put your label in and give them a good water. So I still find that it's a little bit cold to be putting these in a greenhouse to germinate. So I take them inside and I put them on my windowsill, and I put them on my south-facing windowsill. Once they've germinated, then you can bring them out. However, just remember, French beans are quite sensitive. They like heat, and they like a lot of heat at night. They don't really grow well unless they've got about 15 degrees Celsius. So if you have got French beans and you've got them in the greenhouse and they're looking really sick and not very happy, do them a favour and bring them in and put them on the windowsill for a bit. Hello and welcome to your May Sowalong with SusyB. It's another fruits day today on the moon phase calendar and I am sowing cucumbers. Cucumbers are versatile to grow. They do really well in the warmth of a greenhouse, they do well in containers, they do well in the ground, and you can also grow them in a conservatory in a pot as well. The main thing about growing cucumbers is they need warmth more than light. They need at least 10 degrees Celsius at night to grow really well. I only grow F1 varieties because I want a good yield and I find that F1s do best. So today I am going to sow Patio snacker with you. It's an F1, and as you can see, it does really well outside in a container. Let's go and sow them. These are cucumber seeds. I always plant cucumber seeds on this side, and I just push them into the module. The reason why I plant them on their side like this is because the outer coating of the cucumber is very thin, and if you overwater, you might make them rot. Don't forget to label them. So at this time of year, these are going to go inside on a windowsill in my house. You don't need heat underneath them, you don't need grow lights. All you've got to do is just put it on a sunny windowsill, preferably south facing, and they will come up in a few days, and then we will revisit them. Hello and welcome to your May Sowalong with SusyB. It's a Roots Day on the moon phase calendar, and I'm here on the allotment to plant my potatoes. Today I'm planting my main crop potatoes, and I've chosen two blight resistant varieties because we've had quite a lot of blight in the last few years. I have Sapo Mira here, which is a great all-rounder, and I have Sapo Una here. I'm a no digger, so all I do is make a hole with a bulb planter about 30 centimetres apart and 12 centimetres deep. Potatoes are really hungry plants, so what I do is I use some bloodfish and bone, and I sprinkle some into the holes. Bloodfish and bone is a really good product to use. It's an organic product to use, and I find that they respond really well to it. You can also use chicken pellets if you want to. Put some in the holes, and then when we've all covered this up, I then put a little bit on top as well, and that should be enough for the whole of the season to feed the potato plants. Did you know that potatoes have belly buttons? See that on the bottom there, that little scar? Well, that's the belly button. That is the umbilical that was attached to the mother plant, and that goes downwards when you plant. The reason why I like to plant these main crop potatoes in the ground is because these potatoes are indeterminate potatoes. You can also get determinate potatoes, which are your first early potatoes. The difference is these potatoes grow in layers. Determinate potatoes only grow one layer. So they're okay to go into containers because you don't have to use much compost. Here in the ground, it allows them to grow many more layers, and you get many more big potatoes. And all I do is I cover it with soil, and then I'll see you back here in a few weeks when they start coming up. Welcome to day 10 of your May Sowalong with SusyB. And it's another Roots Day on the moon phase calendar, so today I am sowing carrots. May is the perfect time in the UK, especially when it's sunny, to sow your main crop carrots. Germination will be quick and reliable, and the carrots will have their 90 days of growth in the best possible conditions. If you are interested in the varieties that I grow, have a look at the description below because they're all listed there. But for today, I am going to sow my main crop, and it is called Eskimo. It's an F1. Growing carrots requires the right soil conditions. As long as you've got nice sandy soil, you can grow in the ground, raised beds, or in containers. So when I sow direct in the ground, I make a drill, and the next drill will be about 6 to 7 inches apart. I like to grow my carrots quite close together because I don't really like really big carrots. Then I give it a water. Carrot seeds are small, as you can see. I meant to be sowing them thinly. It doesn't matter, you can always thin out later on. And then I just pinch it together. I won't water this now for the rest of the day. I'll water again tomorrow, but there's one other thing that you need to do. You need to cover this with some kind of mesh. It can be net curtains even, because you definitely do not want carrot fly to be smelling any carrots at all, because they will completely eat your crop. When they germinate, I'll be back and we'll talk about what we're going to do then. Hello and welcome to day 11 of your May Sowalong with SusyB. It's a flowers day on the moon phase calendar, and today I am going to sow edible flowers, and in particular violas. Flowers have been used in our diet for thousands of years, and they're really easy to grow. Here are a few that are very delicious. Calendula, violas, borage, and of course, nasturtiums. So let's sow some of these gorgeous, delicious violas. If you are in any doubt as to whether a flower is edible, don't eat it. Check it online or by an expert. The viola I've chosen is called Heart's Ease. It's my favourite viola to grow to eat. It has very beautiful petals, and these are great to be used in salads and also in puddings as well. The seeds are really small of violas. When I sow small seeds, I like to sow them in these trays that have a water reservoir at the bottom, and it works as a wicking system. And then the compost will draw the water up into the actual cells. You could pre-water first, but I'm not going to bother. And then to sow these seeds, I very carefully put 2 or 3, maybe 4, on the surface of this compost, and I just gently sprinkle a little bit of compost on top. At this time of year, you don't have to worry about light levels reaching the seeds. They will grow no matter what. You can either put these in your greenhouse if you want, but if you haven't got any room in the greenhouse, you can leave them outside and just make sure that they're watered, and they'll be up very soon. Hello and welcome to day 12 of your May Sowalong with SusyB. It's a flowers day on the moon phase calendar, and I am going to sow some nasturtium seeds. Not only do these flowers look beautiful, they also taste fantastic, and actually you can eat the entire plant other than the roots. You can eat the leaves. They have a peppery taste like watercress. The flowers are a little bit milder, but they are spicy as well. And then you can wait and you can eat the seeds later on and use them as capers. The other good thing about growing nasturtiums is they are a really good companion plant. I use them with my veg. And what they do is they work as a decoy for certain pests that like my veg, like black aphid, white fly, white cabbage butterfly. At the same time, the flowers attract pollinators to my veg patch. So nasturtiums really are a super plant, and I advise everyone to have a patch of nasturtiums in their garden. They grow in pots, they grow in hanging baskets, they grow up tripods, they grow everywhere, and they're really beautiful. Let's go and sow some. Nasturtium seeds are big, so they're really easy to handle. And I have 40 cells in this tray. I'm hoping that I've got 40 seeds, 20 seeds, here. And the other 20 cells I am going to also sow with some calendula, which is another fabulous edible plant. And this is all I am doing. I'm sowing them a little bit like I sowed my French beans. Stick the seeds on top like this. I then push them down, and I always use the first joint of my finger as my measuring device when I do large seeds. Just put some compost on top. Make sure you label them and give them a water. Hello and welcome to day 13 of your May Sowalong with SusyB. Today it's a leaves day on the moon phase calendar and I am sowing red cabbage. My vegetable plot is not complete without that ever dependable staple red cabbage. Sliced into coleslaw, stir-fried, steamed, roasted, braised, pickled, there isn't much you can't do with a red cabbage. With a little bit of planning, it's possible to enjoy homegrown red cabbage all year round. I sow 2 varieties in May for harvesting in autumn and winter. They are red drumhead and red ladero. It's an F1 and it's also clubroot resistant. Both of these are incredibly hardy and they will tolerate freezing conditions. Cabbage seeds are like any other brassica. At this time of year, like everything else, I like to sow in modules. And I put 2 seeds, maybe 3 seeds per cell. I cover them with a bit of compost like this. Again, don't forget to label them. And I give them a good water. These now go on my new staging, which is outside my greenhouse. It's fine for this time of year. Everything germinates outside now. And in a few weeks' time, I will show you what I'm going to do with them once they've germinated and grown a bit. Hello and welcome to day 14 of your May Sowalong with SusyB. It's a leaves day on the moon phase calendar and I am sowing basil. Fresh fruits and veg are wonderful to grow, but it's herbs that lend that final flourish to my cooking. That quintessential Mediterranean herb basil is loved for its strongly aromatic leaves. Fantastic in salads, sauces, and of course, pestos. Basil is a great companion to tomatoes and not just in the kitchen because it helps repel insects like whitefly. At this time of year, basil is really easy to grow from seed. And I have 3 varieties that I always sow every year. They are the Greek basil, Thai basil, can't get enough of it, and of course, the sweet basil or the Genovese basil. Basil seed is small. And like everything else at this time of year, I like to sow in small cells. I sow 2 or 3 seeds per cell, cover with a bit of compost. Don't forget to label your tray. These will now go in my greenhouse to germinate, and when they germinate, we'll come back and revisit them. But if you can't be bothered getting yourself seeds and sowing them, I'm sure you've got one of these lying around in your kitchen, or you have had. Well, there are way too many basil plants in this pot for them to survive. So here's a hack. Take it out of the pot and rip them apart. So with your new pot of compost, make a hole in it and plant your new plants. Basil. Hello and welcome to day 15 of your May Sowalong with SusyB. It's a fruits day today on the moon phase calendar, so I am sowing sweet corn. Freshly picked sweet corn has a special flavour and sweetness that you cannot buy. But don't get it confused with those other fancy coloured corns you can buy like Flint or Dent. Sweet corn is the type of corn that you pick straight from the garden, pull the husks off and eat within a matter of minutes inside in your kitchen. I have learned to only grow one variety of sweet corn because of cross-pollination. You don't really want that happening because sometimes your cobs can end up hard and chewy. I also like to sow my sweet corn in May when I know there aren't going to be any more frosts. I like my plants to go out early in the garden when they're small and they're in full growth. The variety that I like to grow is this one here. It's called Incredible, and it is actually incredible. It's an F1. I only grow sweet corn from F1 because I need that reliability of yield. And these have got beautiful, sweet kernels, very delicious. And over the years, I found it really good variety. Sweet corn seed are actually the dried kernels that you eat. You could pre-germinate your seed if you want to by soaking it, but at this time of year I don't bother. I just make sure that I plant them in deep enough cells of compost. I sow 2 seeds per cell because at least I'll know that, well, hopefully one of them will germinate. And then again, using my measuring tool here, I press them down to the first joint of my finger, at least ½ an inch deep. Cover them up with compost here again. Make sure you label them and then give them a good water. These are going to now stay in my greenhouse where it's just a little bit warmer of a night time and they will germinate really fast. Good morning, Sowalongers. Welcome to day 16 of your May Sowalong with SusyB. Today we're going to have a catch up of what we've sown already and what has germinated and what I am going to do with one particular plant. Do you remember the 1st of May? It was a roots day on the moon phase calendar and I sowed radish. Well, have a look at this. Here they are. Germination has been equal with all of them, but now is the time to thin out. You could leave these as they are, but if you have a look here, they're very thickly sown. And you're probably not going to get big radish if you leave them like this. So what I do is I thin in between, like so, and then I eat it. Microgreens. You can have them on a sanger, that's sandwich in Australian, and they're absolutely delicious. Really peppery. Let's go and see what else we've got. All of my sowings, except my sweet corn and my basil, I have left outside to germinate on this staging next to my greenhouse. So let's just have a look at the days. Day 2 was beetroot, but unfortunately I dropped the tray on the ground, so that's gone down the gurgler. If you've got beetroot, it should be up already. Day 3, Calabrese. They're looking really good. They're going to have to be pricked out pretty soon. Day 4, lettuce. Fantastic. Great germination there. Day 5, 2 pots of coriander. Day 6 are my spring onions. They're not all quite up yet. Day 7 are my French climbing beans. Again, great germination. They're not all up yet. Day 8 are my cucumbers here. It's a little bit early to show you the rest of the sowings because they're not up yet, but so far up to day 8 we've had fantastic germination and it's very exciting. Join me tomorrow for another fruits day on the moon phase calendar and I will be sowing courgettes or zucchinis. And now I'm going to go and eat that strawberry for breakfast.